This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
You have to be strong in today's world. Keep your focus and what you believe in, how to achieve all your dreams. Keep moving forward, never accept less than who you are. Live your best life. Be strong and free. It's the Hits Back with Nahaja.
The Hits Back with Nash Black is sponsored by the Ministry of Health, Cable Bahamas, Rev Christmas, Kalina Insurance Limited, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Fidelity Bank Bahamas, J.S. Johnson, and Baja Retreat and Spa.
And good afternoon and welcome to Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. I'm Hubert Edwards and I'm sitting in for Nahaja Black on the Hit Back. Today is the 29th of December 2021. We are getting right there towards the end of the year, only for 2 days to go. I want to have a conversation around you, really about, what 2021 has been and what 2022 promises for you. Coming in, I was listening to Shavaga Leng as he spoke, as he had his radio show, and he talked about some things which I want to, in a way, continue with, talking about thinking and the mind and, what are some of the things that we need to do to make ourselves better, and what is it that we are going to take away from this period, a very disruptive period going back to 2020. And in many ways, many of us have experiencing, significant upheaval. While many around us are going about business as usual, there's still individuals amongst us at different levels and for different reasons that has been adversely impacted by this period of time, if looked at from one perspective. But said individuals are also being presented with great opportunities for change, great opportunities for reflection, great opportunities for reassessing and, as Shivaga put it, coming to know yourself. He says, we all know ourselves already. The question is, are you accurately assessing and accepting what it is that you see and you know? Because without that acceptance, if change is needed, it won't happen until you acknowledge it. So there's a lot happening these days. Omicron, I hope I get the pronunciation right. I know persons have been murdering that. But it seemed to be we are in the December cycle. It was kind of December 2019. The reason it's called COVID-19. One of the reasons, really. Then we went into December 2020 and there was a spike again. And here we are, December 2021, and more of a spike, now with a variant. And one of the big discussions, or one of the arguments which is always quickly advanced, is yes, there is Omicron, and we are glad that it is not as, I think, harmful, if you will, as the Delta. But in that same conversation, we seem to forget that the Delta hasn't gone anyplace. And so the combination of the two is one of the main reasons that we really have to be on our P's and Q's. So to what extent is Omicron leading the spike, but also to what extent is the Delta still a factor? Oftentimes, it seems as if that is not known. It is known that you have tested positive for COVID-2, SARS-CoV-2, but to what extent it is one variant or the next may be unknown. And so we have to be very, very careful as we keep an eye on that. The newspaper says more restriction on the way. Darville says some PMH wards exposed to COVID. Hotel union are concerned about visitors breaking quarantine. Well, some of the people travel far, save up a lot of money, and it's always going to be challenging. You haven't done that and come all this way to see a part of the Bahamas and not being able to do that. Some persons will take the risk. Hopefully they don't, and they don't end up harming us or harming themselves and other persons. Government considering the new CDC protocol. I think they're saying, you don't have to stay isolated for 14 days. Atlantis will proceed with New Year's Eve event in safe manner, the president assures. So we'll see how that works out. The business section of The Guardian today speak about the Ministry of Tourism data tells tale of tourism rebound, so that's a good thing. Central Bank reports show visitor arrival by air and sea in October reached 260,942. Visitor numbers near pre-pandemic level. Sector remains in a gradual pace of recovery. Really, really positive news. Central Bank seeking to eliminate cash checking by 2024. I think that holds some potential positives for business and for commerce, also for advancing our adoption, movement towards more digital transactions. Central Bank on target to integrate Sand Dollar platform in the RTGS ACH system. This is, I think, an important game changer, and that's something which needs to happen. I think we have spent, I guess, a lot of money, but certainly a lot of effort in developing the Sand Dollar. I think it's time now, having received the attention of the world, given recognition for the project, I think it's time for it to become cash. And the only way that will happen is if it is widespread, it is well used, it become ubiquitous to the Bahamas. Improve lower socio-economic class to improve economic health. And this is an interview I did with Chester Robarts. He highlighted the fact that there are some individuals in the country, in society, who are likely to be impacted just a little bit more than some others, even as we climb out of this, from economic scarring. Individuals who would have to deferred educational opportunities, they may lose jobs, and because they may not have been certified or have formal qualification, they do not, or they are not in a position to re-engage at a job at the same level of income, and consequently their lifestyle may change. So yeah, this is some important issues. In the discussion, we did talk about some other things more broadly, and talk about the fact that, as is seen on this same page, the recovery is positive, and we also have to pay some attention to the impact and the importance of the national debt going forward. So today, we're going to step away from the hard discussions we usually have, and let's have one about you. So I would like to hear from you. 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. What is it that how did you change in 2021, in this year? How did you change 2021, maybe even 2020 to 2021, given that both of those years ran into each other in many ways? And how do you plan to change for 2022? What are the things that you plan to do going forward to improve your life, to grow and develop, to become a better person? So even if you are out there and you are faced with the ravages of the moment, the ravages of the circumstances, how is it that you are going to make those change? I want to hear from you. The text line is 422-4796. Let me start by reading something that I wrote. because I believe that in an important way, this is kind of part and parcel of, how we become, how we develop as individuals. And some of this, again, as I said, I heard Shivago was talking, is kind of like a bit of a continuation of some of his thinking. So I wrote this, and it was intended to be a little bit complicated, or at least cause you to say, what is it that you're saying? I said, my thinking paves the path for my thinking, so I may think in ways that improves my thinking, such that my thinking becomes a superior way of thinking, I think. Let me do that again. My thinking paves the path for my thinking, so I may think in ways that improves my thinking, such that my thinking becomes a superior way of thinking, I think. And even though that may sound like a mouthful, it's very, very simple. It's a understanding that thinking is cumulative, just like learning. It accumulates. So right now, wherever I am in this moment, the way I think today, right now, as we speak, that's the thinking, that's the level of awareness. That's the place that I am. That's the consciousness that I am in, which is going to pave the path for the way I think next. And so if I then shift that thinking, let's assume that the way I'm thinking right now is not a good way of being. I'm heading down the wrong way. If I continue like this, I'm just going to end up to be a bum, a loser, angry person, a not productive citizen, a not productive individual. But if I was to shift my thinking, then it would pave the path such that I have the ability to improve on that thinking, or at least improve on the level of awareness, improve on the level of consciousness that I currently embrace. And that improvement then causes, all things being equal, we're looking at a positive now, causes my new state to be a superior state to what it was before. So you see the accumulation, it's improving. So it improves my thinking such that the thinking that I now embrace becomes a superior, a better way, a more productive, a more pragmatic, a more self-conscious, a more congruent way of thinking given the circumstances that I'm dealing with. And because it becomes a superior way of thinking, things are going to improve. And I end that with saying, I think. And the idea there is we must think. We have to consistently and actively think about what we are doing, where we are, how we are, what level of consciousness we're in, what level of awareness we're in, and also become active in thinking about what we are thinking about. Because if your thoughts are going in the wrong direction, if they are leading you to a place which is debilitating, if you are embracing thoughts of fear and trepidation, then chances are you're going to end up someplace negative. But you can change that such that your thinking become more positive, and therefore within the context of what you're trying to achieve become superior. Now, if you were Alexander the Great, or the Khan, one of the Khans, and you want to go capture the whole world and take over the whole villages and, just pillage and burn, then obviously your superior way of thinking in that context is not to think about nice things, but to think about really, really bad ways of hurting others. So the truth is, it works both ways. It can work both ways. Just as, Hitler would have said, well, I come up with a very, very, very superior idea, a better idea of doing what I'm doing. And we all know that was a part of the Holocaust. The poor persons who were participating and plying in African slavery. They would have come up with a superior way of breaking the slaves, of beating them, of getting them to comply. But those were nice ways. But the truth is, within the context of what they were doing and what they were seeking to achieve, it was a superior way. It was an advancement. So I make that point to make this point, that these issues can go both ways, but we want to focus on the positive. So what exactly is it that you have been doing 2020 to 2021? And what is it that you propose to do, the changes that you propose to make come 2022? I have here with me this book written by Dr. Miles Monroe, and it speaks about, the title of the book is The Principles and Benefits of Change. The Principles and Benefits of Change. And it says that our lives are I'm just picking out some lines from this, our lives are in a constant state of transition. That is true. Change is one of the most important factors in life. I think we have to accept that, but in many instances, we naturally resist it. There's some things that we don't like to change. We like to get new shoes, new clothes, new gadgets, but there's some things which disrupt our lives that we definitely don't want. We don't want to make the adjustments necessary to deal with these new variant of the virus. We definitely all want to go to, some people want to go to New Year's Eve ball, and we want to be able to be in a crowd with 500 persons where we can, feel the heat of each other and be merry and ring in the new year. That's what we want. We don't want to change to the place where we say, absolutely not. And so, if there's a question right now of there being a curfew, that is going to be resisted. Because even though that may be good, I'm not saying it is, but even though that may be good, we really don't want to go there. Miles Monroe's book says, many also neglect to initiate positive changes that would make a significant difference in their lives and the lives of others. And the majority of us end up in some way, the victims of unwanted change. So there are things which we want, and then there are things which we don't want, and those unwanted change usually grab us and put us in a place of challenging. He talks about 4 types of change. The first one, he says, is change that happened to us. Unexpected or anticipated change. So we either know that it's coming or we don't know. That affects our personal lives, family, careers, and so forth. Then there is change that happens around us. So it's unexpected or anticipated change that affects our society, nation, or world, and that also has some impact on us personally or our way of life, like what's happening with COVID right now. It's happening around us. I think one could say, we anticipated a 4th wave, maybe. We were hoping that it wouldn't be so, but it affects the society, it affects the economics, it affects the healthcare system, and so it's happening around us. And there's change that happens within us. So unexpected or anticipated change that directly affects who we are, either physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually. So we could get sick, so physically. Emotionally, we could get a piece of news. It could be a positive news or negative news, and depending on how we process that, it will have an effect on you one way or the other, but depending on how you process it, it determines the outcome and the impact. It affects the feelings and therefore affects the emotions. And then change we initiate, which is something created or altered by plans we have implemented in order to move us from the present to a preferred future. And that's kind of the one I want us to linger on a little bit. For every single one of us, there is a preferred future. It doesn't matter how rosy the individuals seem to be having it. It doesn't matter how much money they have, the billions and the millions, or the multiple houses and the fancy cars, whatsoever persons use to judge outwardly in terms of success, as Shivago said, the things that we acquire. We have children, and the children become doctors and lawyers, and we are very proud of them. No, it doesn't matter how you look across the fence and see the Joneses look. Every single individual has a preferred future. Wherever you are right now, there is at least one iota of difference that you're seeking to create, or you're hoping to have. And so this idea of initiating those changes, making them happen, causing them to happen, doing the things which are necessary for them to become. It doesn't guarantee that anything will happen. But when you create change intentionally, then you put into motion the things which you desire to have. And the question is, how do you do that? So when you went to 2020, 2021, were there some things that you did? And are there some things that you're doing and putting in place and planning for 2022 as we speak? This texter says, I plan to save more money for the unexpected situations that usually popped up. These 2 years have been like hell on earth. Wow. Yeah. This is capital advice. The idea of saving for a rainy day, I don't know what other description could be superior, and I'm sure that there could be some. But the last 2 years, I think, has been a humbling circumstances for many. But it has also been a potent example of what it means to prepare, to be ready for the future, to get to the place where you save for that rainy day. I think it's important that we remember that. This individual said the last 2 years have been hell on earth. What a way to put it. But the question is, even if it is hell on earth, and this is how this individual choose to style it, right? Were there not opportunities? Were there not parcels of heaven? Were there not glimpses of heaven? Wasn't there a moment of joy? Wasn't there a moment of celebration? Didn't some persons succeed? Didn't some individuals see their lives advance significantly in ways that wouldn't have happened had there not been COVID? So you see where I'm going? On one hand, depending on how this has impacted us, it could be hell on earth. On the other hand, for another individual, it could be nirvana, heaven. It could be that moment, the moment of a lifetime, in the best way possible. So I want to hear from you. Just like this individual says, save more money. That's one thing that they will be doing. So, yep. We're going to take a break here, but let's get this first. We are going to celebrate with Colina. Celebrate the season and win mall cash. Colina knows that the holidays are about family, friends, and your favorite things. Take Colina's holiday challenge. Win $200 to spend at the mall or marathon. It's simple. 9 chances to win. Follow Colina's Facebook page. Share the holiday challenge post. Choose a challenge. Get your friends to like it. Get the most likes and win mall cash. Easy as 1, 2, 3. So see Colina's Facebook page for details. Happy holidays from Colina. And so you want to go check that out. Go to Facebook and make sure that you give yourself the best chance of winning $200. That's a nice amount of change to spend. Let's take a break here, and when we come back, we'll get into the rest of the conversation. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black, Hubert Edwards sitting in for her. We're coming to the end of 2021, and the question is, how are we going to march into 2022? Don't move. Come right back.
Rejuvenate, refresh, treat yourself. Immerse yourself in total comfort. Pamper yourself. After all, you're worth it. Relax. Rid yourself of all life stresses. At Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa, you will find everything you need to enhance your body and spirit. Call today at 323-6711 and begin your journey to serenity at Baja Retreat Anti-Aging Spa.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. It's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
This is Juan McCartney, and I'm wishing you and your family all the happiness in the world this holiday season and all of God's abundant blessings in the new year. Here's to hoping you have a great 2022.
It's the hit back with Nahaja Black. It's the hit back with Nahaja Black. It's the hit back with Nahaja.
And welcome back to the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's certainly a pleasure to be able to sit in for her coming so close to the end of the year. And just to have, ease a conversation. We're not getting into anything tough, but we definitely want to hear from you. I have a lot of material here to share from. I also have my book, which I'm proud of. I did this in 2020, or is it 2021? I can't remember. I think it was 2020, but it rolled over to 2021, yeah? And the book is Think, Act, Grow, Thoughts and Reflections for Self-Leadership. And just as Dr. Miles spoke of in his book about the principles and benefit of change, and the fact that we have to become, initiators of change. He says change transports the present into the future that demands a response. Change transport the present into the future that demands a response. Often that response requires further change from us. And this is what is true. The changes that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, no matter what it is, it's a loss of job, it's a breakdown of relationship, it's a change in the economic environment, it's a struggle with a child, it's a struggle with school, whatsoever it is. The response to that change circumstances usually demands and requires a change within. It requires a change from us. Because at some point in time, if you ever are going to solve a particular problem, you have to shift your thinking. I think it's one of those psychologists, I don't know if it's Young who says, or Einstein, who said that you can't expect to fix a problem with the same level of thinking which caused it in the first instance. So even though sometimes the issues or the matters that you're dealing with are not necessarily caused by you, the change materialize out of one of the categories provided by Dr. Miles, which says the change happened to us. It's something that happened to us, or it's happening around us. None of us went out and created COVID. None of us. I don't think. I mean, none of us here in the Bahamas. And none of us said to it, come to the Bahamas in wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and now that we're opening up, come back again in wave 4. No, none of us did that. But we have to deal with it. And the question, therefore, is how do you adjust? What type of changes do you make internally in order for you to be in the best position of responding to that rather than reacting? I have one of the passages in this book that I wrote, right? And these are all short passages, easy to read. It talks about having to let go. be willing to make the change, if you will. And it starts with a quote at the top. It says, "It's time to get off the fence, to spread your wings and fly to places where your existence aligns with your boundless potential." Let me say that again. It's time to get off the fence, to spread your wings and fly to places where your existence aligns with your boundless potential. So it assumes a couple of things. It assumes that you are where you are and there is some level of indecision. You're on the fence. You're scared. You're not bold enough. So you sit in some place, but you're also not at a place where your potential is being realized at its best. And it is saying to you that it's time to spread your wings. It's time to take action. If you think about that analogy with a bird, if a bird spreads its wing, it's an action which is taking place. And it spreads its wings in order that it may fly. And that flight takes it to a different place. Good, bad, or indifferent, but it takes it to a different place. So if you are going to get into 2022, if you and I going to get into 2022 and we desire to be in a better place, not a different country, maybe not necessarily a different job, just a different way of existing, feeling free, exercise, losing weight, whatsoever it is that we desire to achieve, we have to spread the wings. We have to start to take the action. So I have a couple of questions for you as it relates to that from the book. Are you afraid to let go and fly? Are you afraid to let go and fly? As you look at what you've gone through in the last 2 years, as you look at what is facing us in 2022, the question I have for you, are you afraid to let go and fly? I can say to you, it has been my experience that there was a point in time, maybe a too long a point, where I was actually afraid to let go and fly for a number of reasons. There were, I could package the reasons so nicely, maybe eloquently, and have you believe that they were I was justified in doing that. Clearly, there were pros and cons to the decisions that I would have taken. But there was a point when I was actually really, really afraid to let go and fly. 2020, March to be specific, it's kind of started a little bit earlier because I think a very important point in my journey to today came in 2018, February, when I left my job. At the time, things were kind of okay, but I had to go. And then 2020 hit you like a sledgehammer, right? For many persons, and I have this conversation all the time with individuals, and I try to convince them that you should not look at a person and make a decision as to how well they're doing or how well off they are. I always have this one or two persons insistent, even if I tell them otherwise, that my life is good, my life is perfect, everything, well, not perfect, but things are cool. Because they look on, they see you doing certain things, they may hear me on the radio, but the truth is 2020 took me out by the legs. At least I think I was chopped off right at the knee in many ways, figuratively speaking. And that period up to now has been a point of reflection. And one of the things which I've learned from this period is, look, you have to let go. You have to not be afraid to do whatsoever it is that you desire to do. You have to not be afraid to speak your mind. You have to not be afraid to do some things which you are convicted to. And I'm saying this knowing that I'm an individual who, if you knew me before then, I often willingly speak up. I often willingly speak out. But still, there were times when the wings weren't being spread as far as they could have. So the question remains, are you afraid to let go and fly? Do you allow fear to hold you in captivity? Because we may look like we're free. Physically, we're moving around. We're doing the things. We're smiling. We're seemingly happy. But we are imprisoned by the fear which is right there in our minds. The fear of losing this, the fear of losing that, the fear of having persons see you in a particular way, the fear of having persons talk to you in a particular way, the fear of having somebody fire you or, decide to be out of favor with you, whatsoever it is, criticism. We act often in that space of fear. So do you allow the fear to hold you in captivity? Because as long as it does, as long as you're in that state of fear, you're not going to move forward in anything, no matter what it is, no matter how simple the thing may be. You may achieve some aspect of it, but arguably, you will not be at your optimal level in no way, shape, or form. You have to get rid of the fear. And, well, you have to grapple with the fear because, this fear thing, I think sometimes persons like myself, we just talk about it and make it seem so simple. It's not. It's difficult. We have to be honest. It's difficult to deal with circumstances which drive you and drive the emotion of fear. It's really, really difficult. But I think the message, and this is maybe the way I should put it, the message I'm trying to get across is you have to work harder than the circumstances which is driving the fear, because on the other side of the fear is where your success is going to be. On the other side of your fear is where whatever breakthrough you're seeking. On the other side of the fear is where you're going to advance and find momentum. There is no question about that. So even when it causes you to have cold sweat, even when it causes you to freeze up, even when it causes you to feel, that level of suffering and anxiety, you have to grapple with it. And the first thing is to admit that, guess what? I am afraid. I feel the fear, but I'm going to do something with it, about it. Are you stuck in a barren surrounding or constantly seeking new opportunities? And now this may be a tricky one. Because if I ask you that, you may be picturing you stuck someplace out in the desert. No. When I say a barren surrounding, you may very well be in the midst of plenty. You may very well be in the midst of much. But when you take a look within, the fulfillment is not there. When you compare what you're doing, what you're achieving with your goals, with your desire, you're nowhere close. So you're stuck there, and you're always therefore constantly seeking new opportunities to do things. And nothing is wrong with that. But are you stuck? Which means that nothing is happening for you. Or are you actively jumping on whatsoever is there? Or are you just too afraid, too scared? There's no opportunities there. Nothing good is going to happen for me. That's for them other people. Are you doing that? The fourth question is, do you take considered risks to create your own growth? Do you take considered risk? Recently at Success Summit, I did a presentation. I gave a presentation, and the title of it was Stick Your Neck Out. And it used the analogy of the turtle, which says, unless you stick your neck out, there's no movement, there's nothing, there's no progress. And this is what it means to stick your neck out. Don't just stick it out willy-nilly, but take considered risk to create your own growth. There's some things which, unless you start doing, unless you start participating, unless you become an active proponent in your own growth and development, unless you start to become your own coach, your own cheerleader, your own teacher in this self-education adventure. There's nothing which is going to happen. For you to find growth, you have to go out there and find mentors. You may be lucky sometime to have someone, buck up in you and you hit it off, and that's a positive. But more than likely, you have to actively go out and seek out these individuals. So are you doing that? Are you taking considered risks, well-considered risks, not being careless, not going out and willy-nilly doing things, not being reckless, but taking considered risks such that you can make some progress? Are you aware? This is the 5th question from the book. It asks, are you aware that safety tomorrow demands rejecting safety today? Are you aware that safety tomorrow demands rejecting safety today? In order for you to create that safety sometime that we crave, and the reason why we don't move is because we're in the space of being comfortable in our safety zone. But we must understand that if we are going to create a better future circumstance, a better tomorrow, we have to step out of that safety. The safety for tomorrow that we desire will come at the expense of exposing ourselves today. You have to go work, you have to go to school, you have to study, you have to do the things which are challenging and which are stressful today so that you can find comfort for tomorrow. And guess what? Come tomorrow, when you want to change that situation, even in this newfound comfort and better circumstances, the next future demands you to become uncomfortable again. So I ask you the question, are you aware that safety tomorrow demands rejecting safety today? Too many of us, myself included, have spent too long being comfortable with our lives. While we have demands and desires for greater things, we have been willing to allow the normative behaviors of society to kind of dictate how we go, to kind of cause us to play it safe, to kind of cause us to reject opportunities because we don't belong there, or we should not be doing that, or that is reserved for certain type of people, kinds of people. It has never been done by your kind, your type before. For too long, we have been way too comfortable. And this operates at multiple levels, It operates at a personal level, it operates at corporate level, and it certainly operates at the national level. Right now, as we speak, there are so many issues facing the country and facing the leaders, where this same advice, I think, applies, in that we have to come to a realization that the Bahamas of tomorrow, the Bahamas of the next 5, 10 years, must today grapple with its discomfort in this moment, grapple with it, embrace it, such that next year, next 2, 5, 10 years are going to be that much more comfortable. It's a formula, it's a principle, it's there. There's no question. If you do not do the things today, if Shawnee Miller does not go out and train like a beast, work hard every single day, she's not going to be in a space to win a global medal at the Olympics. It just don't happen. Now that smile and the adulation and the recognition and the medal that comes after she crosses the finish line is paid for by the price of discomfort on the training ground and actually running the race up to that point. There's no two ways about it. So, are you aware? Have you accepted that that is the case? This text says, good afternoon, Mr. Edwards. Okay, let's see. This is a long one. Good afternoon, Mr. Edwards. Normally around this time of the year, due to the change in climate, people would get sick. Before COVID, it was the flu. So now the term is given the Omicron virus. What do you think about this? Normally, I do not make resolutions. I just continue to do what I'm doing just a little better. Yes, I'm really not proposing resolution. I've given up on that. I realize that resolutions are just things you make so that you can break them. But certainly you have to show resolve and discipline and put plans and strategies in place for tomorrow. Now, to say you keep on doing the things you're doing just a little bit better, that could attract some discussion, because the question is, are you getting to where you want to get in the time that you want to get there? Are the things that you're doing currently moving you sufficiently? So just to say you want to do it just a little bit better may not necessarily be the best way of looking at it. As it relates to the virus, I think, yes, it seems as if this thing is kind of jumping in just like the flu usually do around this time. The difference, though, is that there's a flu season. But there don't seem to be a COVID season. It spikes up at a particular point in time, and then it lingers on throughout the entire year, at least up to now. So we can't really, I don't think I would want to put it in the same category as the flu virus. Yeah, so I want to hear from you. I want to hear what it is that you are saying. Maybe you will be calling after the news. But let's take a quick read through this piece from my book here. Make the decision to risk safety today in order to secure your future. I took a photograph of a bird in a parking lot of a shopping mall. It was sitting on the razor wire atop the fence that was erected to secure construction material. The angle of the photo gave the impression that the bird was enclosed, confined by the wire. It evoked thoughts of distress and captivity. This, however, was a free bird simply perched on top of the fence. As I reflected on the picture, a thought invaded my mind. The bird, though firmly planted in a place not conducive to its existence, that being in a parking lot, only appeared to be in captivity. It was free to fly. Many of us are mentally arrested by circumstances from which we are free to fly. Where there are fields and vistas to explore, we stay locked in and shackled to the barren parking lots of life, refusing to fly, refusing to explore, and refusing to reach for our greatest selves. Instead, we settle for a dreary existence, awaiting the next available crumbs that fall to the barren and unproductive asphalt of our lesser existence. Are you still hanging on to that which will not advance you any closer to your dreams? Are you firmly clenching to the branches for safety, dangling precariously above the precipice of life while ignoring your surest means of safety, your ability to fly? Find your wings. Look for your power. Explore your true potential and pursue your purpose. Your greatest safety lies in your willingness to take great risks and step out of the comfort of familiar surroundings. Step away from the ease provided by the efforts, plans, and visions of others. Step out and find your own way. Your security fundamentally lies in the committed pursuit and ongoing achievements of your own goals and dreams, your personal successes. Only when this is true can you truly advance in a sustainable way without the fear of disruption caused by your dependence on others for your own survival, your means of living, your livelihood. Therefore, stop clinging for safety. Spread your wings as wide as possible and take the plunge. Spread your wings and fly into the abyss towards your full potential. The best way to be a bird is to let go and fly. And we'll take a break there. And when we come back, we will get into the conversation again. And hopefully you will join me on the other side. But if you don't, there's still much more I would have to say, I would like to say, and I will say to you. You're listening to The Hit Back with Nahaja Black. This is Hubert Edwards sitting in for her. Certainly a pleasure to be here.
This is Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Because you are family, and family is important to us.
This is Nahaja Black, and I am wishing you and your family happiness, joy, peace, and prosperity this holiday season and throughout the new year from all of us at Guardian Radio 96.9 FM.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back.
And welcome back to The Hit Back. Hubert Edwards here, sitting in for Nahaja Black. Our numbers to call 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, or text line 422-4796. So we're having a very easy conversation today. We're talking about how we would have been impacted between 2020 and now. And I'm asking you the question, what changes did you make, or how did that period change you? And what change will you make going into 2022? One person says they're going to save some more, and the other individual is not necessarily going to make any resolution, but just going to do things a little bit better. And that's fine, as long as the thing that you're doing gets you the result you are looking for. Then improving on that is certainly will take you closer to where you wish to be. We also been going through some aspect of this book by Dr. Miles Monroe. The title of the book is Principles and Benefits of Change. Change is important. There is a story is told in this, at least cited from the movie, The Shawshank Redemption. One of my favorites. I like it for different reasons. I believe it's a movie, a great study into strategies, into patience, into persistence, into the ability to identify opportunity and use the skills that you have when those opportunities arise. And also, it's a great study into how you advance yourself, make better for yourselves while making better for others. One of the things which consistently happen in that movie, when one of the main character had the chance to serve the warden, and of course he was building and planning his way out in the future. But he said to him, I will do this for you if you do this for the guys. Always looking out for how, in his own advancement, he can help to advance others. But let's talk about one particular character in the book, in the movie. And this individual, I didn't find the name here, is Brooks. So Brooks, I think, was the librarian, for those who would have seen it. He used to give out the books. Brooks gave out the books. And his time was coming for release, but he had been in prison for a very, very long time. He went in the 1950s, and he was now going to is now going to be released after a very, very long time. And he didn't want to. He was scared. He was totally terrified. He hadn't seen on the outside of a prison for many, many years, and he just didn't know how to deal with it. He got to the point where he wanted to commit another crime in order for him to stay in prison. He was dissuaded from doing that, and eventually he was released. On the day when he was released, he got his suitcase and he went out, he grabbed the bus, he was on his way to a halfway house. He was terrified. He was terrified. While everyone around him was calm, he was terrified of the ride on the bus. The bus simply was going too fast. He has never experienced anything as such. And so at the halfway house, he was now supposed to live there, to get back into the groove of everyday living in society. And he works in a grocery store. But he just couldn't deal with it. And eventually, Brooks took his own life. He hung himself. At one point he says, which is quoted here in the book, "I can't believe how fast things move on the outside. I can't believe how fast things move on the outside." Now, that statement may just fly past you because I explained to you that he was in prison. But the way it is stated, on the outside, when we say on the outside, it means that we belong elsewhere. So here is a free man released from prison, and he considered this the outside. He wanted to be back there. There's another thing that he said, "I'm tired of being afraid all the time." Are you? Are you afraid all the time? What is it that you're afraid of? And are you tired of being afraid? Reds, who the character played by Morgan Freeman, said this, "I'm telling you, these walls are funny." He's talking about the prison walls. "At first, you hate them. Then you get used to them. Enough time passes, you depend on them. And enough time passes, you get so dependent on them." In a non-physical way, many of us are sitting in our own mini prisons mentally. There are some things and some circumstances that we experience that in the first instance we hated them. Situations that we just didn't like, we would rail against it. Every single thing in our body, every sinew, every cell in our body fought against it. But we remained, and after a while we got used to the situation. And then enough time passes, and then we realize, or we don't realize, but we have come to the place where we are actually dependent on them. Not a good situation in the first instance, still not a good situation depending on how you look at it. But ultimately, we have allowed ourselves to be sucked in and find comfort in bad circumstances, and they have become our walls of support. Rather than actively fighting and trying to find ways of escaping, we no longer want to escape our prisons because our prisons have become our safe space. This is what Dr. Miles is putting forward in this book. The ongoing dynamic of change, he says, therefore, is one of the most important factors of human life. And it can change you for the better or it can change you for the worse. So we have to be mindful. We have to be very careful not to sit in places which kind of hurt us. We're unaware in many instances, but you sit there too long and then all of a sudden you are your own jailer in your own mental prison, in your own space where you can no longer escape. As a matter of fact, where you no longer wish to escape from, because you are now functionally not capable of doing anything, surviving, growing, moving, advancing in any other space, because your mindset is such that my prison walls are where I am supposed to be. So the one or two things that you do it maybe very well. So when Brooks was in prison, he took great pleasure in pushing around the trolley and handing out the books. And he does that day after day after day. To him, that was fulfilling. He works in the library, he gets to read, and he was very comfortable. Near you looking on that, we would figure this man need to get out of jail and he need to get on with his life. But in how many instances, or at least aspects of our lives, it may not be in totality, but it may be in some small aspects of our life that we actually do that we actually live like that. And so as we deal with 2021, and as we move into 2022, if this is the case, because certainly, for many persons, it's cool, it's good. If everything is fine with you, then, we're not focusing so much on you. We know that there's always space for growth and improvement, and that is encouraged. But for persons like myself and those others who struggle, because this is as much a conversation I'm having with myself as I'm wishing to hold with you. I'm saying that we need to find our space. We need to find our footing. We need to find our space of boldness, and we have to step out and go get what it is that we desire to get. We just can't give up. Life is so exciting on the other side of freedom or the other side of fear. When you get to the place where you feel free in your mind, and this is my personal experience, life becomes that much more exciting. We have to become bold. We have to become courageous. We have to step out and go do this. 2022 is going to demand that we become our best, that we step out, we step from behind the walls, we step out of our comfort zone. We'll be willing to be uncomfortable and make some things happen. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to the Hit Back.
A pleasant good evening, Mr. Edward.
A pleasant good evening to you, Sparky, and all the best for the new year.
I know you and your family had a good time.
We had a quiet time. It was good.
You did the quiet one?
Yeah, we had some food. I had some curry goat, and that was good.
So you're going down in you're going Irish?
Yeah, I had some Irish food. Yeah, man.
You're going out in the country?
Yes, and I had some sorrel. I know you know about sorrel.
Yeah. Because I have a friend, that they don't call into the talk show because I'm the bucket mode. I normally be the one call in. But they were born they are Bahamian, but at a very young age, they were sent off to Jamaica by their mother, who is from Jamaica, who married a Bahamian, but had some minor problems in the Bahamas when this person was a young child. So her Jamaican mother sent her to Jamaica to grow up in the boarding school in Jamaica.
Okay.
Being exposed to Jamaica most of her life, listen to her talk, she came home like the holidays to visit family here. And she got all engrossed that she basically knows Jamaica just like you. And just listening to a person talk, she could say, well, that one from Kingston, that one from the country, this and that and the next.
Okay.
I talk and stuff like that, but, I found out that sometimes you try to express yourself, And you try to explain the book with Morgan Freeman then. And sometimes people don't give you a chance to explain yourself because they caught up in their own lifestyle and they find you strange to them when they forget how they grew up, when they came through a rough time and they elevated to status, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So when they reach status now, they forget that there was a poor little boy one time ago, but they eventually got off to high school, to university, went to the United States, come back with the degree, come back talking muck and be shut down.
Mm-hmm.
But they forget how to walk barefoot and go back down in the country with brethren them. You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I understand.
So when you try to explain yourself on talk shows and stuff, they're the quickest person to cut you because they want to know where you're coming from. Because they forget where they came from. And we need to get together and realize that we are a small country, what we call the Commonwealth of the Bahama Islands. And we are all in this crab basket trying to live very modest and beautiful lives. Most of us are trying to abide by the law. Most of us want to live nice lives and comfortable with a little bit more than a government house and a second-hand Japanese car. We all want to live the good life. But what I'm found out of what I am saying to you, you give me a moment, I found out, I see with my own black people, when they meet the something they call status, they complain with the other elites and so forth, but they are the ones that hold down their brother man more than anybody else that they watch it.
Okay.
We hold ourselves back because it seems like we hate to see a brother or a sister move ahead into Old Fort Bay or Life at Tea or Paradise Island or something, because as soon as you move them, Mr. Evans, you are a drug pusher. You are something illegal. You are something, but they don't realize, hey, you followed the law and you did it the right way. You followed the law. You had a good education. You got a good religious upbringing, and you tried to do it right.
Okay, I got you.
And they hold you back when you get there. And
Okay,
then they say,
thanks so much for your contribution and all the best. I wish for you a very pleasant and productive 2022. We know that you are part and parcel of the radio voices around town, and we always look forward to hearing from you. But yeah, you made some valid points. But you know, I try not to judge people. I can't tell an individual how they live, how they're supposed to live their lives. We simply go about living ours, and hopefully if it is positive and someone want to take some aspect of it, then, you know, certainly that's it. I've come to the place where I understand, you know, as you use the word strange, I looking at you will think you're strange, you looking at me will think I'm strange. And that's because we are unique, we're different. We may seem to be alike because we live in the same space, we have, or we practice the same rituals, we have the same cultures, but, you know, we don't all believe the same thing, we don't always do the same things. You may have a household and dinner is cooked and it's rice and peas, or peas and rice, and there's one child in there who you just can't give that to. It's going to be white rice for him or no rice at all. So we are always different in some ways. The thing that we must do is to, you know, always respect that difference, because diversity helps. But importantly, the other aspect that you mentioned, when somebody rises, we should celebrate them. But the thing which is true, and if we are honest with ourselves, we all experience this. It's not easy. It's not easy to celebrate somebody else when you yourself is not thriving. It becomes difficult. But you have to work on it. You have to work actively on it, because I believe there is an important breakthrough when an individual can unreservedly celebrate the success of another. It prepares you, I think, for your own when it comes, but it also guards you against, some of the darker emotions of jealousy and bad-mindedness and things, which really takes away productive energy from you, my view. So to the extent that you can do that, you should find a way, always find a way. You don't have to rush like everybody else, everybody run and slap him on the back. If in a moment you feel, little bit, you feel a vibes, hold the vibes, get rid of it quickly, settle down, and be intentional, but also be honest and authentic. There are too many persons who are out there celebrating other people, and they absolutely are not happy for them. So get to the place where you can authentically celebrate others. And that will take you a very far way. So let me get through this before we get to maybe another break. This passage from the book, Think, Act, Grow, it starts with a quote. All of the passages starts with a quote. And it says, "You will never be greater than your greatest dream. You will always be lesser than your greatest fear. Live life without limits, dream big, be fearless." These are big aspirational stuff. And they're not easy to reach, but when I write stuff, I try to project things out there. And for the most part, I'm kind of talking to myself, knowing that there are other persons who may find themselves in a similar circumstances. And consistent with what I did before, it always asks a couple of questions. It says, what are your greatest fears? What is your biggest dream? Are you afraid to dream big? Are you ready to step out boldly in pursuit of your dreams? How do you manage your emotions? Never be afraid to adopt bold visions. That is the opening. You will never be greater than your greatest dream. You will always be lesser than your greatest fear. This is true. In a paradoxical way, our greatest dreams can lead to our greatest fears. This then leads to an immediate limitation because of our ambitious desires. That is the paradox. The issue at hand then is, how do we confront this situation? Should we allow ourselves to be emaciated by fear, to cower away and be content to dream less? Do we settle for a lesser reality, too scared to contend with a bold dream? No, absolutely not. To succumb to that type of thinking is to display extreme weakness. It is evidence of not being fully developed in our thinking and failing to understand how our emotions work and the control we can exert over them. The appropriate response is to develop an awareness that the fear is natural and can be controlled, and that with focused action, fear tends not to last, or at least is reduced. We may never be able to get rid of fear, but we certainly can manage it. Dreams will cause both excitement and fear at the same time. It is the expectation of potential positive outcome that drives the excitement. Thoughts of failing or losing will trigger a sense of fear. As we confront the emotions caused by the excitement or fear associated with a particular dream, we will find that over time we become more comfortable with pursuing it, and the excitement may continue to increase while the trepidation decreases. This is the result of action. It is only by boldly acting and stepping forward that we secure this result. Action is easily the best treatment for fear. So go ahead and dream in gargantuan ways. Do not be afraid of scaring the living daylights out of yourself. Get so creative in dreaming up your endeavors or scheme that they scare not only you, but everyone with whom you share them. That is the perfect way to dream, to push the envelope towards reaching your greatness. At times, the greatest obstacles to your success is you. Do not allow limitations to be formed and crystallize in your mind. Live your life without limits. Dream big and be fearless. Then go out and act consistently with this mindset. So all I'm saying there is, hey, engage your mind, engage your dreams, engage your thinking. But at the end of the day, you have to engage your action. It's not going to just happen. It's not going to be something that persons like to say manifests itself. You know, you can manifest until God comes. Unless somebody does something or unless certain circumstances come together, there's going to be no happening. Rain don't just fall because somebody dream it up and manifest it. Rain falls because the atmospheric conditions are right and perfect for there to be rain. It's a part of the evaporation cycle. Nothing happens without a reason. Now the question is, how are you going to make those dreams a reality? As you move into 2022, as we move out of this period, which has been significantly disruptive for many persons, challenging, which may cast a long shadow on the future, how do we create that light? How do we make it brighter? How do we move confidently into a new year? Even though right now we're stepping not too firmly. Right now we're not too sure of what tomorrow holds. Right now we have evidence of significant loss, of significant challenges, houses, mortgages, school fee. We have, decision to make. Are we going to leave the kids in that school or move them to another school? Am I going to have to cut all of my subscription to certain clubs or whatsoever it is? Whatever big decision, big or small, that you're facing with going into 2022, the best way to deal with and confront them is to be intentional. And whatsoever fear or scariness or trepidation they impose on you, just accept it. Understand that it is there. I'm not saying it's easy to accept. You are going to tremble, but tremble. Let me speak perfect English. Tremble. And then deal with it nonetheless. Because this whole idea of being bold and brave is not that you're not scared. It's not that your knees are not going to shake, but is that you make a decision to confront it nonetheless. So let's step into 2022, since no one wants to speak with me today. Let's step into 2022 with this type of a vibe that we have the ability to change whatsoever has happened up to now. We can create a new future, a better future, no matter how good it is, even if this has been the greatest year for you so far, the greatest time for you so far. You can still make it better. But certainly to those of us who have struggled, to those who have really taken a huge hit out of this time, you have to stay in a place where there's a sense of hope. And I'm not talking here perfection. I'm not speaking to the fact that everything is going to be perfectly okay, well laid out. You're going to be, having the best of relationships, the best of friends, the most of money, the best to eat, the best of car. No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying you have the ability to make it better. And like we said at the beginning, these things are cumulative. So you start and they pick up momentum, and it's like a snowball. Start small, and then eventually you have one large enough that will roll over an entire village. So what are you going to do? How are you going to step into 2022? Colina wants you to celebrate with Mall Cash. Celebrate the season and win Mall Cash. Colina knows that the holidays are about family, friends, and your favorite things. Take Colina's Holiday Challenge. Win $200 to spend at the Mall of Marathon. It's simple. 9 chances to win. Follow Colina's Facebook page, share the holiday challenge post, choose a challenge, get your friends to like it, get the most like, and win Mall Cash. Easy as 1, 2, 3. You have to go to Colina's Facebook page for the details, and it's Happy Holidays from Colina. You're listening to the Hit Back. We're going to take a break here, and when we come back, we're going to finish this conversation. With or without anybody jumping in, I still have some more things to tell. So let's join me on the other side. Don't move.
Do you want to travel this holiday season? Don't want to miss out on those doorbuster deals? Haven't gotten your COVID-19 vaccine yet? The Johnson & Johnson vaccine may be just what you need. It's one and done and fully vaccinated. For now, just one jab of this vaccine and 2 weeks later, you're fully vaccinated and ready to shop. This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health and this radio station.
Rev customers already get more channels, more sports, and more speed. Now, we're giving more Christmas with up to $250,000 in cash and prizes. Sign up or upgrade to Rev Trio to win prizes like rent and mortgage payments, trips to see your favorite sports teams, plus up to $20,000 in our Rev Cash Vault. Want to win more Christmas? Call 601-8992 today and ask for Rev Trio. Rev, you and us together.
When I had got prostate cancer, my family didn't know if I was going to live. At Cancer Treatment Centers of America, within days, I got an appointment. They presented me with treatment options, and we set up a robotic prostatectomy. When my scans came back, there are no signs of cancer. They don't see you as a number, they see you as a part of the family. I'm going on with my life. That's a real gift.
Call us at Cancer Treatment Centers of America.
This is Erin Green, wishing you and your family happiness, peace, and mangoes this holiday season and throughout the new year from Guardian Radio, 96.9 FM.
It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja Black. It's the Hit Back with Nahaja.
Welcome back to the Hit Back. Hubert Edwards here sitting in for Nahaja Black. We're having ourselves a casual conversation, maybe a monologue of sorts. What is it that we are going to do? How are we responding to whatsoever the changes have been since 2020 into 2021, and how can we make those changes? We've been using Dr. Miles Monroe's book to reference some points, the principles and benefits of change. And he talks about being double-minded about change. And what he means by that is, as stated here, we are therefore double-minded about change. Good change can come, but we should never have to deal with what we perceive to be unpleasant or negative change. And that is, natural. The brain, it is said, has developed from a primal stage where it's designed to really protect us. The brain moves us towards pleasure and away from pain. And if that is the case, then we can understand why we are going to be, naturally speaking, resistant to circumstances which are likely to cause anxiety, cause us to struggle, or cause our circumstances to be different in a negative way. So yeah, Christmas is coming and gifts are about. We want Christmas to come. We want the baby to be born because that's a good thing, that's a positive thing. We welcome moving to a new community, moving into a new house. All of those are changes. We welcome our children moving from one class to the next one school to the next, onto university. And they bring different challenges, they bring different pressure, but those are good things. To get the child from high school to university requires you to find additional funds, and that may be a problem in and of itself, but it's something that we can work with. On the other hand, COVID popping up don't bring nothing good. Losing a job certainly don't bring anything good. Having to downscale or downsize, move from a bigger house to a not so big one, don't bring any, and we resist those things. And it's very natural. What often persons are encouraged to do is to, work with it. I have a colleague from Jamaica, Dr. Lakem Samaj, is a quantum psychologist, and he uses that phrase all the time. Present an issue, and he says, work with it. And what that means really is not necessarily accept it as it is and just go with the flow, but work with it. Because that's what you have. Your circumstances right now is your circumstances right now. Work with it. What can you change? What is it teaching you? What are you learning from it? How can you make adjustment? What is it that you can do to benefit tomorrow? So what exactly has COVID thrown at you over the last 2 years, which you have learned? Things that you can walk away and walk confidently into 2022. Let's assume, we don't want this to be so, but it is a high possibility. Let's assume that we are going to see COVID, at least for the first couple of months, at a high level or picking up. And then it's still going to stretch across the year just like it did for 2021. If you are currently at a place where you have not yet recovered from the challenges which COVID introduced, are you going to still be sitting and waiting for the end of the pandemic? Or are you going to make adjustments such that you can operate within the environment imposed by the pandemic? Which are you going to choose? Sit and wait with no potential end in sight, or are you going to make adjustments? I suspect that if you have given that any amount of thought, you're not going to sit and wait. You're going to seek to do something. And it's the same principle which carries throughout everything that we're faced with. May not be as straightforward as that in terms of understanding, but definitely it's the same principle. So the thing has happened to you and around you. And the question is, how are you going to respond next? Not react. Because react connotes unthinking response. A response without thought, without planning, without strategy, without any type of intentional conclusion as to what you would want the outcome to be, what represents success. If you're in a burning house, obviously success means just getting out of that. If the fire is not too big, success may mean getting out with grabbing some of your important documents, if that is possible. But at an extreme, just getting out of that with your life, though you are going to lose everything else, is success based on the circumstances. Challenging, hard, painful, but you remaining in there gives yourself absolutely no chance of rebuilding, because you're going to be consumed by the fire. So your first the first thing that you need to do is to respond strategically, respond in a thinking way, so that you can start immediately to improve the circumstances. Fire, heat, get out. We can deal with the house after. If any is left, if nothing is left, then at least you have a chance of rebuilding. You may not have insurance, you may not have the ability to ever do that again or get something that looks like that again, but at least you're alive. And once you're alive, there are opportunities. So what exactly are you doing in the circumstances that you are currently? Even if people desire positive change, Dr. Myers says, they're hindered from obtaining it by fear and uncertainty, or because they act rashly instead of purposefully and wisely. Very, very important. The actions should be purposeful. And as best as possible, we should act wisely. Now, your wise is different from my wise. You're much smarter than I am, and you get superior results. But this is one of the reasons why we said when you are looking at circumstances which are changing, remember I started the show by saying my thinking impacts my thinking such that my thinking becomes a superior way of thinking. So at any point in time, I should be improving myself. I should be pouring into me. I should be thinking about my thinking such that when I am faced with these circumstances, I am going at them in a prepared way, mentally prepared, maybe semi-prepared. But mentally, I have already conditioned myself to deal with my circumstances, to not run from them, to look for the positives, to look for the opportunities. These are things which we can do going in, such that we're not acting rashly. We're not just jumping headlong into the flames. We're moving away from it. We're creating a circumstances which is going to be more virtuous as opposed to vicious. And ultimately, we are now improving our circumstances. Yes, the change happened to us. The change happened around us. There's nothing that we can do about it, but we're not going to behave in such a way where we run from things and cause it to be worse. You will never really know who you are and who you can be if you don't understand the nature of change and understand how to shape its consequences. So everyone sitting out there, and this is from the book, Myers Monroe book, you're never going to truly understand who you are until you understand that you can change things. You can effect change. You can do things to change the consequences, such that everything which is happening around us at this moment demands some sort of a response from us. Our ability to respond to that may be different. Like I said before, some of us are more prepared than others. Some of us have more money. Some of us have more family, more support, more friends. All of those things factor into life. But regardless of what you have or what you don't have, I believe there's always at least one thing that you can do. And the thought is that you do that thing and you do it well. You learn, you build, you grow. It may take you a longer time than some other person. It may be that you spend the rest of your life trying to come back and never actually get back, but at least you're moving your circumstances forward. And I believe that this is what it's going to be called for in 2022. Because the truth of the matter is, while we see the world economy is bouncing back, there are still some discoveries, I believe, which will emerge, and that is we are abnormal in a normalizing situation. What do I mean by that is we're kind of getting back economically to where we were, but the circumstances on the line that is still abnormal. We can't just go wherever we want to. We can't just run around. We have to be wearing masks. We have to be, doing certain things. Some people are still working remotely. All of that sort of things. So there's a lot of abnormal activities. And some of these abnormal activities are negative. Some are positive. Some of them really is making the circumstances worse. And some of them has the effect of mitigating those circumstances. For the ones which are mitigating, at some point in time, they will go away. We're not going to be running around in masks every day and staying 300 feet from everybody. We're going to be running up and down and jumping in the clubs, and all of the parties will be going, and BEC will need to produce more electricity, and the light bill will go up, and the water rate will go up, and then all of a sudden you realize, guess what's not going up? Revenue. So there are some things which, when we are fully normal again, they will come back to challenges. And so we have to be ready for that. We have to start thinking about what the next near future is going to look like and be prepared for it. Change is not the kind of friend, Miles Monroe says. Change is not the kind of friend who will sit and commiserate with you at a pity party, but a friend who will encourage you to be the best you can be. In other words, when you're faced with change, it's not going to feel sorry for you. It's just going to affect you. It will affect you just the same way it affects the other person. What is different, really? COVID affects every single individual in the exact same way. Every single individual is faced with the same exposure in the exact same way. What is different, though, is those individuals, each of our circumstances, where we live, what resources we have. So if you take away everything which is external to the human individual, the human being, COVID comes at us exactly the same. But different persons have different capacity to respond to them. Some persons not so good, and so all of a sudden they're in problem. Other individuals better. Two persons who live in a poor community, say, but one exercises a lot, the other don't. So it's not a question of being rich. Now it's a question of the state of your physical body. And that presents a different ability to respond to the virus. So the change, using the virus as an analogy, is not coming to whisper nice things to you and saying, hey, I know you're feeling down, but no, you good. No, the change is demanding of you one single thing and one single thing only. You must be your best. It encourages you to be your best, because only when you become your best, only when you become, in the first instance, even if you're not at your best yet, only when you become better than the current state right now, which the challenge met you, are you able to start to work with it and fix it. If it meets you with a lot of money and the money is cool to deal with it, then immediately you can respond to that. But if you get to the place where you need more than you have, then you will have to go figure out, well, where am I going to get this? Am I going to get a loan? Am I going to work a second job? Am I going to have to do some things? Am I going to cut certain expenses? Only when you make those changes and become better at managing and mastering that circumstance, is the situation likely to change for the better in your favor. So responding to change in a positive way doesn't come automatically or easily for most people. And that may be 99.999%. You have some very brilliant persons out there who just get everything. But for most of us, responding to change positively, it just doesn't come easy. And you have to condition your mind to act on these changes. And again, there are different things for different people, because you may be great at responding positively to your financial circumstances, to responding to your fitness and physical circumstances, to responding to areas of your career, but you may not do very well in relationships, or you may not do very well in responding to the call for support at a national level, for volunteerism. There are always going to be some areas where, we're kind of weak at. So different persons have different capacity of dealing with different aspects of their life. But what is true is that we have to condition ourselves to get to that level of positive thinking, assuming that we are desiring positive outcomes. We have to get there. And it's not simply about just thinking about it. It's about working through, thinking through, analyzing, and coming to maybe slow, deliberate conclusion, and then working on the plans and the strategies that you come up with. It may mean that you need to consult with other individuals. It may mean that you have to go read a book, or at least watch someone who's doing it and mimic what they're doing. However you decide, however you conclude, you have to get to the place where it becomes easier for you to move in that direction. Because as long as you are going to have some type of a mental resistance, then you're going to be challenged. Sobering and thoughtful show, I realize the biggest challenge in life is overcoming and perfecting ourselves, to be more like Christ, more patient, more kind, more loving and caring, discipline, save more, and better attitude, etc. Case in point, I just started first week in a new job, and I said, Lord, am I constantly on a shift with a challenging, immature, snappy, young acting supervisor who really tests my faith? He answered my prayer. Leave her in my hands. The battle is not yours, it's the Lord's. Seem like for every level is a devil. What you say? For every level is a devil. All right. I think the biggest devil is is us, right? Is in us. For every level there is challenges. You are going to see the devil wherever you look for him, or it, or whatsoever the entity is. But the truth is, as you climb, there's always going to be obstacles to overcome. And the truth is, these obstacles you should see as your friend. You need to first condition your mind to understand and accept that life is, when they say it's not a bed of roses, right? Somebody said life is not a bed of roses. They got it all wrong, I believe. Life is a bed of roses. Sometimes it looks nice and beautiful on the top, but there's a lot of thorns underneath, which you will have to confront in order to move forward. As you smell the rose, so you have to contend with the piercing of the thorns. So as you move, as you go to another level, there are circumstances for you to overcome. As the text says, this is ripe ground for you to train. Maybe you are contributing to this. You never know. But you have to ask yourself, what is my role in this, and how can I change this? How can I become a better person, a better individual? How can I make this work? Because at the end of the day, look at the many persons out there who don't have a job, but you have one. And if you can make the most of this, then life is going to be that much better. We're going to leave it there. I will be back with you tomorrow, and we will continue this. We will finish it up. But certainly, I want to say to you, take life seriously. Think about what you have been through, and think about where you are going for 2022. I always like to end shows by saying, never allow your greatness to become a victim of your unwillingness to change. You have been listening to the Hit Back. I'm sitting in for Nahaja Black. I just want to say, walk good, all the best, one love, and Ubuntu.
The Hits Back with Nash Black is sponsored by the Ministry of Health, Cable Bahamas, Rev Christmas, Kalina Insurance Limited, the Cancer Treatment Centers of America, Fidelity Bank Bahamas, J.S. Johnson, and Baja Retreat and Spa.